Hi everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time here, my name is Dillion, and on my space here I simplify topics around tech, from tools to libraries to frameworks to everything about the browser. And in today's video, I'll be explaining how to go about internationalization in Next.js applications, and I'll be using this library next-intl. So let's get started. Internationalization is a very important aspect in web development, especially when you are creating applications that serve people all around the world. Not everybody has English as their primary language, and when you want your content to be understood by everyone or a very wide audience, then you have to provide extra translations to your website such that they can also digest what your website or what your software offers. And that's why internationalization is very necessary. In Next.js out of the box, we have internationalized routing. And what this means is you can configure your Next.js app without any extra library, such that for FR, the FR part, you would want this to serve French translation. So if you have FR/about or FR/contact, this will serve the French translations. And if you have maybe en here, this will serve English, and you can have the same for Spanish and any other language that you want your application to offer. But Next.js does not do the translation for you. You would have to do the translation yourself, and that's where we need all of these libraries that internationalized routing supports. And like I said, we'll be using next-intl. So without next-intl, looking at the default or looking at the basic configuration for adding these i18n features to your site, you have your module.export in your next.config, and then you have your i18n property. And this property, you have different properties in the object. You have the locales. These are the languages that your site supports. So when you have en/us, that means your website would have something like mywebsite.com/en/us, and then every other thing that follows. And that's the same thing for FR, NL, and then you can also set the default locale. And when you set the default locale, if you leave it as English, then you don't always have to do mywebsite.com/enus. You can just do mywebsite.com and it will use the default locale. And you can also configure your internationalization to support domains, in the sense that when you have example.com, you would want the locale for that to be en-us, and when you have example.nl, you want the default locale to be nl, and when you have example.fr, you want the default locale to be fr. But for this tutorial, or for the explanation in this video, I'll be using path, which is /fr/nl/whatever language you want it to be. So let's see how to get started with this library and then set up a basic Next.js application using internationalization features. I have this basic application set up with create next app, which is a library for scaffolding a basic Next.js project, and next-intl app. So when you run this command, this will install the necessary dependencies for your next-intl app, and then you can change your directory to this. Now when I run npm run dev, the development server, and over here, so you can see this is a basic Next.js app, and this is the home page with links to different resources. Now if I try to go to FR, which should be a path for internationalized path, I get this error: this page could not be found, because Next.js assumes that FR is a page, whereas it's not supposed to be a page. So this means we'll have to configure our Next.js to support internationalization. So over here in VS Code, I would have my next.config.js, and just as we saw in the documentation, I'm going to export an object, of which this will be one of the keys, and then I'm having my locales. For my site, I'm just going to support English and French, which is EN and FR. You can also go as far as having it full, but FR is a shorter convention. And for the default locale, I'm going to have English, and that's all there is to it. After making changes to the next config, I would have to restart this server again. And over here, I would refresh. Now on refreshing, you can see that this page serves as the home page, and this page serves as the home page. So this part here is going to serve as a French translation. Now, how do we have all of these things translated to French? That is where we need next-intl. So back in the terminal, I'm going to install next-intl. Back here, as we can see how the library works, we can see how to use it, but let's first start with the installation. So over here, after installing it, then we'll have to add a provider for our next application. So in app.js, which is the first component that every Next.js page uses, I just going to have next provider and next provider, and this accepts a prop called messages, and this messages is going to come from the page props, and I'm going to call this messages. And that's not all yet. I would have to go to a page now, say index.js, and looking at the documentation here, on every page I would have to export the getStaticProps function, which would retrieve the locale from the URL which is configured by Next.js. Remember, I told you Next.js handles the locale, but this libraries handles the translations. So the locale will be coming from the context provided by Next.js. I'll copy this, and just below the home page, I would export this. I also have to create my translations. So instead of calling these messages, I'll call this lang, and this is the folder here. So I'll create an en.json. As you can see back here, you have your en.json, you create a JSON object here, and then you use the use translation hook to pick one of the keys, the top level keys from this object, and then you use it for your translations. So going back here, I'm just going to have this, and I'm going to call this home, this, and then welcome to Next.js. So back here, I'm going to do it like this. So once the locale is en from our config here, remember in our config we have en and fr. So once our locale is en, this will go to lang/en.json, which is this. And then I can go back to this. Okay, this is not TypeScript. I have to remove this part. And then I can go here and have my translations, use translations, and I'm going to have this as home. I have to import this, import use translations, and over here I can just take off this line and have t welcome. Remember, in the enJSON we have welcome. Under this home object we have welcome, so here I can do this as t and welcome. And over here, okay, since we are on the fr part, we do not have a French translate. We do not have an fr.json, so that's why it's not working. But when I take off this fr, t welcome. Okay, something is missing. T, okay, yes. This is React T welcome. When I refresh, and now you can see we have welcome to Next.js. And now we're going to create a French translation, so I'd have fr.json, and this is how we are going to do it. So remember, in the home page we had a T. This is it here. We have T use translations for the home property, and then we have a T welcome. So this means in our fr.json we are going to have a similar object just like this with the same keys, and the only thing that's going to change is the translations. So I'm quickly going to use Google for this. Translate from welcome to Next.js. I'm going to pick this. I'm going back in our application. For the home page we have this, and when we have the /fr we have this bienvenue sur Next.js. And that's it for this tutorial. You can keep going on and on. You can add more keys here. And even over here, you can see we can make use of variables. So username will be inserted, having this username object here. So username will be inserted into this. So this video is just to show you how to translate. So if you are building applications for diverse users, then you have to ensure translations are in place. And remember, this is not restricted to French. If you stay in a place like Nigeria, you can have translations for Yoruba, you can have translations for Hausa, for different things. All you have to do is create your next config to serve a part like Hausa, and then everything in this page you create translations for that page. So if you like this, if you learned from this and you found it helpful, kindly like, kindly subscribe, and kindly share.